Welcome to the monthly Q&A of indie developers. This time I will have a talk with Indigo Brown, who made Plunder in his free time.
Hey, thank you for having me. My name is Indigo Brown. I'm the founder and lone developer of acreategames. I began developing games when I was 13 years old, and ever since I had a passion for it. Plunder is a top-down pixel-based action role-playing game. It's based in a fantasy world. It's a lot bigger than I had ever imagined when I had first started building it.
Yeah, I can imagine, because when I was playing it, I was like, whoa, this is so much content. So hard to cover this in the Q&A. I was just wondering, then you made everything on your own?
For the most part, yes. Everything was me working late into the night. I did all the pixel graphics, I did all the animations, all the coding, the story. The few exceptions, the cover art was a friend of mine who did that. She's a professional artist though. And the music I did purchase from a stock music website. But everything else, yes, that was me.
And that's crazy. So how long have you worked on Plunder?
So Plunder, I started in college. I had only taken a couple computer science classes, but I had worked with GameMaker for quite a bit, just kind of messing around with it since I was a kid. So I started in junior year of college, which was November of 2015, and I finally got it released in September of 2019. But in between that was a whole bunch of trying to figure out what the game was going to be, how I was going to work on it. I tried a Kickstarter at one point out of college, which failed.
Oh, whoa, okay. Yeah, that's quite challenging, like Kickstarters. I just really wonder, how do you get motivated, like, to work 4 years straight on one game? Do you have any tips?
That's a very good question. I think my original motivation started in November of 2015, where I had gone through a bunch of projects that I burned out pretty quickly. I didn't get very far in any of them, and I started realizing that although Plunder seemed like a pretty far-fetched thing that I could create by myself, as long as I kept chipping away at it, eventually it would get done. And I didn't know how long that would take, but as long as any free time I had, I would just work on it a little bit, and I was enjoying it, then it would be no problem. So that was the original motivation, but after a couple years, it turned into, I put so much time into this, it needs to be finished, otherwise I wasted all of it. So that came at a bit of a price. I was working out of college, but I was working on Plunder until 2:30 in the morning, and then getting up at around 7:30 for normal work, and that really wasn't healthy. Probably physically and mentally, I think it did start to get to me after about a year of that. But I just kept saying, once it's finished, it'll be good. And I just kept going with that.
Wow, okay, you should basically crunched by yourself.
I'm definitely not recommending that. But that is how it was done.
Okay.
I would definitely not recommend working till 2:30 in the morning every night.
Was your environment supportive when you were making your game?
A lot of friends and family that were a bit more disconnected from it. They're like, wow, good for you. You're working very hard. But at the same time, I was living with my wife, and that did cause some issues. She wasn't super happy with me not taking very good care of myself. I was grumpy a lot because I wasn't sleeping. So there was some rough patches there. I did actually, there's a very, very well hidden Easter egg in the game. One of the trees has her initials carved into it, and if you go up to it and press E, you can see a little kind of love note apologizing for how I was a jerk and stuff like that. And I hope she'll forgive me. Well, she has, of course. She's still here, so.
Nice.
Yeah, it depends on how close the people were to me.
Okay, so just going back to your game, I think it's more fun to talk about instead of like all your problems. Like, oh, so what was the idea of I want to make a game with pirates, or the idea I want to make an RPG?
I've always loved RPGs. I grew up with them. I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but Icewind Dale, Baldur's Gate, those are the games I started playing when I was 6 or 7. And those just captured me. Like, they seemed bigger than I could imagine. And, like, you could do anything, and you see townspeople living, like, just their normal lives, and you're able to talk to them. So RPGs always captured me that way. But also, throughout high school and college, and even now, I play Dungeons and Dragons with my friends all the time.
Okay.
And one day, we decided, like, hey, let's start a pirate campaign. That sounds really fun. And we started really exploring what would that mean? What would you do? Would you go around like raiding towns? Would you board ships? Stuff like that. So we started laying out the rules, the weapons, the context, the concepts, the systems. And I was looking at it and I just started thinking like, this could actually be a pretty cool video game. And I started taking all those rules and trying to come up with a way to gamify it a bit more. Take it away from the tabletop and put it into a functional computer game. So I'm not sure which came first to answer your question. But
Okay, fair enough. They kind of merge into each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I also think it's very interesting that at the start of the game I was very surprised. I suspected that I was immediately a pirate, but you're not immediately a pirate. You're kind of a light of like finding your way, and then it was quite of interesting. Like, what was your idea behind this?
So that is the correct interpretation of it. Then the first beta I did in March 2018, I just sent it to my friends to see what they thought of it. You did just start as a pirate in that intro dungeon. And it was a bit jarring to them. It seemed like you just popped right into it and they weren't quite sure what to do, how to move. So a lot of the Lost Soul part was to very much simplify how to control. So just how to walk around. It says WASD. From a story perspective, you're a forgotten soul. That's what you keep being called by the old man that greets you once you wake up. And you've possessed a dead body. This was a really good way to create like a clean slate so that once you start making decisions, you don't have to think, oh, what was I before this game started? So it was a very easy way to do that. And
I mean, it works out. I mean, small ideas are like sometimes even better than the one. I think it's cool. I also just noticed something like I was thinking about Dink Swanwood and other games because like basically you can kill chicken for food, and I was thinking like, was that on purpose? Like, did you put in different hidden references to other games?
Were the first animal I made, if I remember correctly. I think I was just trying to fill out the town a bit more because it was just a bunch of villagers wandering around. And once I added the chickens, I was like, well, you can't not be able to kill them because you have to get food if you need some way to heal. But then I was like, oh, they have to lay eggs also. I meant no ill will towards the chickens, I swear. I just felt that having cats and dogs be killable really didn't match the lightheartedness of the game. That's why you can't kill villagers either, they just run away.
I also noticed like it's really RPG based, but then suddenly the inventory is like your left hand and your right hand, and suddenly your right hand is only for the shield and stuff, but also for your magic. And I was kind of confused why you made that choice.
I'll have to really dig back into my old self. I remember going, okay, I know that I want click and control my left arm, right click control my right arm. And then I was like, I definitely want magic. But the more I designed the spells, the more I realized just having magic and no way to attack the things attacking you while using the magic was counterproductive. And I was like, well, nobody's going to want to do that. If you're running around healing and you can't do anything else, kind of wanted to use magic as a complement to the combat instead. And eventually, if you decide to like go full in on magic RPG when you're building your character, then you can. You'll be able to basically fully depend on magic, but for the most part, you won't be able to. So that's why I left it in the right hand. and it's a good way to go, well, you can use that, or you can have a shield, or you can go fishing. Those are all just the complement items that you can use on your...
Yeah, I think the game is really connected with a lot of choices. And I really remember the thing that I was like, oh, I just buy the best plate armor. And then suddenly I tried to walk and then I was like, kind of, oh, this is like the slowest walk I ever encountered in any RPG in my life. And then there was also, there's a kind of enemy which basically like casts a ring of destruction around you, and I was like, well, if I wear this plate armor I will instantly die. So what was your idea behind that?
That was always a controversy, especially with like my play testers. They sent back notes where they're just like, armor makes you very, very slow, way too slow, and it was just in all caps, fully bolded.
Playtesters noticed it as well, right? Why didn't you change it afterwards?
I let it up a bit. So I didn't want armor to become a crutch. I wanted it to be more situational. So where if you were fighting certain creatures that, like the skeleton mage, you would want to take that armor off. But if you're fighting a bunch of smaller guys, the armor is the right decision. So I didn't want somebody to buy the highest armor and then be set for the rest of the game.
During one of the big quests, you have two choices. Like, you can kill a pirate, or you can kill the guard. Although I was like just fed up with killing the pirate, so I thought, oh, maybe I just kill the guard, and I could. But then it seemed that the whole British Empire always hates you. So I was wondering, like, is it basically, did you make that choice of killing the guard instead? Like the most undesirable choice, and made it basically unplayable? Like,
I think what you're referencing is the exiting of the little tutorial gulf at the beginning.
Yes,
and
exactly.
That does set the stage of, you can go either way on this. You can go and kill the pirate or go and kill the guard. Either way is completely playable, I promise you. Killing the British will not break the game for you or anything. It will make the game a bit harder at first because they'll attack you on sight, but there's a little pirate village you can go to and hang out, and there are their own quests there. But if you go with siding with the British, they have their own quests as well. And there's 4 different endings to the game, and they all look at how you handled those certain situations.
Oh yeah, with the ships. When it's kind of a bit confusing, the fact that if you also attack successfully a ship, you will also like need to attack them. If you get attacked by the battleships of the pirates, then you also need to fight them. It doesn't really matter. It costs you more money because you need to repair your ship. But is there another penalty?
Yes, you're right. It's the basic boarding sequence happens either way. But if you're the one boarding them, you get experience and you also get more gold at the end of it. So you get better rewarded.
How was it to do your own Kickstarter?
It was so stressful. It was right when I graduated from college, and I needed a job, but part of me was like, what if you could work on Plunder full time? And I was just like, you know what? If I don't try it, I'll always regret and like wonder what if. So I sent out a bunch of old assets and tried to make my pitch. The game wasn't quite in a good place yet, and I think that kind of turned a lot of people away. I did end up making 3,300 out of 10,000 that I asked for, because that would last me like 8 months just to live frugally. And it didn't work out, but I did send out a email to all the people who tried to back it saying, hey, I really appreciate you believing in the project. If you want to send me a character that you want in the game with a side quest, you're welcome to do so. So I got about, I would say, 10 of those that are in the game that you can find around, that they have their own quests. They decided what their character looked like. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to work with them.
That's really cool. So you kind of, because of Kickstarter, you kind of created this really small community.
Very small community.
That's really cool.
But it was fun to work with them. They had interesting ideas. There were a full spectrum of different kinds of quests that people wanted. So it was great. It was great.
Yeah, so how many quests are in the game?
Oh, I don't know if I can put a number on that. I would say Okay, so if I'm thinking of your little quest journal, and each page is a quest explaining what you have to do. I think you can get up to 75 quests. That's main quests and side quests. There's also 3 optional bosses as well. Some are tiny side quests, like, oh, just go get me this ring. Others are full on. You can go into a different realm and fight the Flying Dutchman. So I think if you want to put a number on it, I'd say 75.
I guess you worked in Game Maker Studio 1, right? Or did you work at Game Maker Studio 2?
So, Game Maker 1, it started as this very old copy. I had a disc from 2007 that I developed for almost 2 years on, and then my dad's like, okay, this you just need to upgrade to a pro version, because I was using tutorial. And so once I got that, all these new features opened up, and it was like 6 years newer, and it like completely changed the way I was developing. But Game Maker 1 was my prime engine, yeah.
So, but did you change like during the time with Game Maker 2, or do you still? Because Game Maker 1 is not really supported that well anymore.
It's not anymore. It was mostly a case of I was afraid of breaking a whole bunch of stuff if I changed to a new engine.
Yeah, I can imagine that, yeah.
I did bring Plunder over, an old copy, just to see what it was like, what I could do with it, and goodness gracious, the lists of hundreds of errors and the fact of a whole bunch of stuff is not working, and I was just like, oh my goodness. And I tried to fix it up, and it just got worse, and I was like, you know what, I think it's good how it is. I think I'll just leave it alone.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, it's not compatible at all. I mean, okay, you told in the beginning that some friends worked on, like a friend of you worked on the game art, right?
Yeah, so the cover art, which is also, that's what the final boss looks like. I guess that's a spoiler, but
yeah, the final boss I haven't seen.
yeah, that's fine. It takes forever to get there. But yes, she's like a graduated artist. She does professional work and commissions and stuff like that. So I contacted her to help me out with that and doing like the design, and we worked through it together and stuff like that. So she was great and very, very helpful with that.
Okay, that's cool. But like the pirate art and stuff that you did by yourself? Or...
Yeah, all of that is me. All the sprite work is me putting 1 pixel at a time and using the little animator in Game Maker to step through each frame and stuff like that in the Game Maker.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. I'm not super proud of it, but it got to the point where I was like, I know this at least, and I know how it works. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Yeah.
Some devotion there. What is the element of your game you're really proud of?
I'm of course proud of finishing it, because half of me was questioning whether that would actually happen. But I think a moment I was really proud of is when it took weeks, but I finally got the naval combat to be functional, to where the enemy AI worked how I wanted it, and then when we boarded and your 2 crews like went up against each other, it would had variety to it of how they would interact with each other and fight, and it felt very fast-paced and fun. And when I finally got it right, that was probably one of the proudest moments in the game.
And then the question that I really like to ask, like, if you would redo the game and you would have all the time and money and all that kind of stuff, what would you do different?
I think the 2 biggest things I would do differently. I don't hate the art style of Plunder, but I wouldn't call myself an artist. So when all that sprite work was just me trying my best, and I don't think it came out ugly, but I don't think it came out striking. Somebody who would see that and go, wow, I have to play that. Because a lot of the first impressions are the art, and that's what encouraged people to play it a lot of the time. So I would probably, if I had all the money in the world, I would hire a bunch of artists to help me out and give a singular vision on making it a bit prettier. But I would also want to focus on marketing a bit more. I was so busy in the development that once I released it, nobody knew anything about it. Nobody had heard of it, and
it. Yeah,
Yeah. So it was kind of just this very silent drop in a whole bunch of indie games being released at the same time. So I would probably increase marketing as well.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, often for everyone who's making games, like, you shouldn't start with the marketing on the ads because then suddenly it's not going to work out, or you need to go to a publisher that will help you. But as on your own, it's not like you're not magically just suddenly appear on the internet and everyone's like, "Yay, I want to play this." That's not how that works. Yeah. So
Yes, exactly.
you also said that you wanted to change the art style, but like, would you go then, because it's kind of cartoon RPG like, but would you then go more to realistic, or what kind of feel would you want to go for then?
I think the general cartoony feel of it works. I just think it does look a bit amateurish at times, and I think just a bit more polish and a bit more consistency. Like sometimes sprites have like larger pixels than others, and that always really bothered me. But I didn't really have the time to fix stuff like that. But it's amazing what some professional artists can do just to make very simple things look very, very pretty.
Yeah.
So I think it would still be cartoony though.
Okay. Okay. So would you like maybe one day think, I want to like rework a bit on it, or are you like, okay, it's done, I don't want to touch it anymore?
Unfortunately, the newest version of it is gone because my hard drive broke.
Oh
I
no.
have, yeah,
Okay.
I have old backups of it. But yes, the newest version is gone. It only exists in Steam, and it's very sad.
Oh, okay. That's really
Yeah,
sad. Okay. Yeah, I can imagine that you will not redo everything. Okay.
no.
Yeah. Okay. So, what is your advice for starters in the game industry?
That's okay.
Yeah, I
So
thought I'd just ask you the most difficult
that's very
question.
good. Yeah, like my game didn't exactly blow up or anything like that. I wasn't intending on being a millionaire after releasing Plunder. What excited me most was that other people would play it, honestly. And with that being said, I think passion is the key for a medium like this because it is so much work. And as dark as it sounds, you can really only depend on yourself if you're trying to get your own passion project done. You can't depend on other people to work as hard as you for your own passion. So I would say come up with a scope that you can cover, and if you want to include friends, just be wary that they have lives and they want to be doing other stuff. So don't fully depend on them. I would say keep a journal with you if you are constantly coming up with ideas. I always had a journal so I wouldn't have to think about it, and I'd write it down and I wouldn't forget it. Take care of yourself. As mentioned before, I wasn't getting sleep. Please don't do that.
Yes.
Please
Okay.
set limitations for yourself. Say, I'm going to be done at like 10 p.m. tonight. No matter if I'm finished or if I want to be done, I'm going to be done and I'm going to go to sleep. So I think those are my biggest tips.
Okay. So, are you working now on a new game?
So, because of my current job, it's a lot more development than the job I was working on when I was working on Plunder. So, I instead am working on a side project on tabletop and card game stuff. So, more
Okay.
physical, less looking at screens, but still keeping very busy. So, I can't dig too much into it, but I am working on something called Stratogary, which is a fantasy dueling card game.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. So we will maybe hear from you again in that kind of regard. You never know.
Hope so.
Do you have any last advice for us?
Any last advice? Okay, so I think one little tiny tip about trying to go full in on game development, if it's just you, is make your development space a very happy place. Do dim lights, make your chair comfortable. Don't have anyone bother you. Maybe have music playing that you really like, just so that when you're sitting there and coding for hours, you're not very unhappy. You could spend another several hours there. So I think that would be my final piece of advice for trying to work really long-term development.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much for all your like insights and advice to us. If some other people have still some questions in the comments, I will contact you, and you sure will be able to answer all those questions. And
I'd love to, yeah.
okay, so that's great. So if you have some more questions for Indigo, please leave them in the comments. And for this was our Q&A. Thank you, Indigo, for coming to my channel, and see you in the next one. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Again.